It's sad to say that Kroq'Gar is underrated given his dominance early on in this game's life cycle, but it's true, these days Kroq'Gar just doesn't measure up to the Slaawn Lords and Mazdamundi, and I could go on. But here he is, and one thing about him is he's got Hand of the Gods, which is a massive damage magic missile, essentially like a supercharged Shem's Burning Gaze, does magic and fire damage. Specifically in some matchups, it is pretty good. And here, looking to blast Throg, this is Rubber Duck of War, who has his own YouTube channel. Definitely recommend you guys check him out. Playing Lizardmen here up against Norsca, who have brought double Manticore up to rank 7, which is quite wild indeed. Berserkers, we've got Marauders, Throg, Shaman Sorcerer, Lore of Metal, some Javelins, some Hounds, for Rubber Duck of Wars. Lizardman, he's got obviously Kroq'Gar, Solar Engine, Umbral Tide here, currently blasting a Manticore, some Javs as well, a couple of Cold One Spear Riders to help defend the back line. Saurus Warriors, cohort of Sotek. What is that? 4 Saurus Warriors? 3 Saurus Warriors, cohort of Sotek. Pretty good stuff. Kroq'Gar just kind of hanging back in his support position at this point, allowing the missile units to get the work done. As the Norskins advance here, blasting Throg a little bit with that Solar Engine. He's got 55 armor. He'll shrug off some of the damage, but definitely not all of it. But, yeah, let's see how it goes. The mobile attack comes in to try and light up these Skink Javs. They're definitely going to take a lot of damage. Probably get terrified away pretty quickly, but Cold One Spear Riders do respond in kind, and they're able to mostly stop up the Hounds there. And Kroq'Gar also going to be diving in against the Manticore. Obviously, Kroq'Gar is still one of the top-tier combatants in the game in terms of his stats. It's just that now that Cold-Blooded doesn't give him a consistent source of healing, he really can't stand up to the likes of, like Karl Franz, for example, because he doesn't have consistent healing. But yeah, Marauder's going to engage here. Not necessarily getting the charges, but it's not the biggest deal in the world for either player, honestly. Nice Plague of Rust here on that Bastildon. Puts it still to 80 armor, which is pretty impressive. Bastildon's at that massive 140. They are pretty tough cookies. Kroq'Gar coming in here, helping the Saurus and the Cold One Spear Riders finish off those Hounds. Other Hounds came in the back line trying to get on the Salamanders, but also quickly get shut down by Spear Riders as the Manticores kind of disengage. Both of them relatively healthy at this point, so we'll keep a high view in the sky here as Throg has been getting blasted pretty consistently, and now the Salamanders, and here comes the Hand of the Gods, just full on in the face, and you saw his health before. He immediately pops Wintertooth Crown to keep Throg from breaking. But Kroq'Gar's got him in his sights now after that massive blast. Throg, all of a sudden, tables turned on him. He has to run here from Kroq'Gar. He's going to take a few big attack animations. Kroq'Gar staggering him back, getting him locked in place for just a moment. And the Lizardmen calling up their Manticore summons to answer the Manticore summons of Norsca. Throg gets terrified there, even though he had the Wintertooth Crown still active. I'm not sure exactly how that interaction works, but let's not question it too much. Maybe it's just a visual bug. It looks like he might even get fully killed off there, but the Manticores actually drop down as the Umbral Tide open up some shots on them. They're going to get enraged straight into the Cold One Spear Riders, which is kind of a worst-case scenario for them. Solar Engine is also still in play here, gets the Plague of Rust, but it's not going to be enough to allow the Manticores to beat it, as the Cold One Spear Riders and the Salamander support still too much. And yeah, I don't know what else. The Skink Priest, he's got Curse of Arm Rare, interesting. Give a nice AoE debuff here, potentially, to Norsca if he could. But another thing to consider is, I believe, does this count as aquatic terrain? I don't remember 100% if it actually counts as aquatics or not, but potentially the Skinks might be getting some minor buffs here. If this is indeed shallow water, counts as shallow water. But now the Umbral Tide still focusing, probably on the, Javelins now. Kroq'Gar, basically no threats to him at this point, with Throg being just deleted from existence. Javelins are somewhat threatening, but this Norsca build went a little all-in on the anti-infantry and probably not quite enough anti-large at the end of the day. It was going to be tough regardless, though, with Throg getting blasted like that, and that's because of the specific Kroq'Gar interaction. I tend not to take Throg in this matchup. Even though he might seem pretty good on paper at fighting the dinos, he gets lit up, literally, by Hand of the Gods. So there's at least one situation where Kroq'Gar can shine. And of course, his monster hunting prowess, his anti-large capabilities make him pretty good in this matchup. Oh yeah, give us a nice pose there, Kroq'Gar. As the Umbral Tide just rain fire in the background. Man, this game is so awesome. Anyway, if you guys are enjoying the series, be sure to give it a like. Another Hand of the Gods just blast that Metal Sorcerer, and he gets KO'd, shattered to the house. Actually triggers army losses, so how about that? Straight up Samus blast to the face twice on characters for the game-sealing victory by Rubber Duck of War. Big thanks for the replays. Super awesome to see Kroq'Gar shine like that. And yeah, that's one valid use case for him, is to blast characters, especially those that are weak to fire. But in general, just, you know, if they don't have enough HP, they get hit by the full force of that. It does a ridiculous amount of damage. 30 kills, some XP chevrons going on for the Cold One Riders. Bastildon also got a XP chevron there. The Solar Engine, pretty good stuff. It's a bit of an odd build, I have to say. All things considered, not the biggest fan of the Marauder Spearman here. Yeah, the Chevron Javelins as well. Personally, I like, in this specific matchup, because Bastildons have such heavy armor, I do like the throwing axes a little bit better. Also think you could maybe drop the Chevrons from the Manticores and just maybe bring more of the throwing axes, or, I don't know, some other anti-large type units. But anyway, Kroq', in terms of use cases, obviously we saw there Norsca is one, Tomb Kings is potentially another one. You can just about one-shot Arcane the Black, I think. Maybe not quite, but you just do an insane amount of damage to him. I really wish that the damage values, they've gone through and listed the actual real numbers for the healing spells. I really wish they would do the same for all the damage spells, just so that there's no real confusion. But essentially what this is Shem's Burning Gaze. If we compare here, pull up a Light Slon, you'll be able to see it is same icon and more or less the same effect, right? Minor magic fire damage on this one, good versus a single combatant. And if you look here, I think this one is says it's slightly better, causes major magical and fire damage. So good against armor, good versus a single combatant, good against large combatants because all the missiles will hit them. It doesn't have a specific anti-large component, but 2-time use. It is kind of Kroq'Gar's only claim to fame, as he has 0 support abilities. Kind of makes him, in some ways, just a straight-up worse choice than something like the Saurus Oldblood, who actually can take a Carnosaur mount. He's not quite as good as Kroq'Gar in combat. Kroq'Gar's just straight up a little bit better across the board, especially with that extra charge and melee attack and the leadership too. Yeah, that that Hand of the Gods is pretty good in sniping very specific characters. So like I said, Frog is obviously one. Tomb Kings, there's a number of characters you could potentially take out. Up against someone like Greenskins, I think, as well, there's a potential for some interaction. If you hit, obviously the what's his name is weak to fire damage, Grom the Paunch, but what am I looking for? Yeah, Greenskins, I mean, Skarsnik has a pretty good amount of HP, but he's a pretty slow-moving target, and he's relatively large for an infantry lord. He's not going to get knocked over. He can take the full brunt of that damage to the face, or obviously if they have somebody like Wurzag or Azag that are a little bit even squishier in terms of their HP. Azag, weirdly enough, has less HP up on his Wyvern than Skarsnik does on foot. He can be tagged by this pretty well. Same thing with Wurzag, he's relatively squishy, only 3,500 HP on his boar, and he does rely on that physical resistance to stay safe, so getting blasted by that magic damage is very uncomfortable. Character sniping has always been a pretty valid tactic against the Greenskins to disrupt their leadership, so maybe Kroq'Gar is a potential use case for him here, although he can take a lot of burst damage from the Greenskins. Yeah, if you, in theory, he'll get sniped pretty hard against the Skaven, but in theory, if you could find Snitch and ask him nicely to not try and dodge the Hand of the Gods, it would probably absolutely wreck him as well. I actually have not tried that. Might just knock him down, I don't know. But yeah, in general, unfortunately, it's kind of Kroq'Gar's claim to fame, and I honestly wish that they would, like, for example, make this Sacred Spawning of Zodal AoE. Suddenly that gives him just a little bit of support ability, because right now he literally has nothing. No support abilities whatsoever. It's all for himself. And because Lizardmen units generally could do with some better support, like Saurus don't have the best melee attack in the world, and, you know, there's some other examples like that, that it would be really nice for him to get some of that. But anyway, regardless, he can be blasting with his hand there, so that's fun. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching that one. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.